Okay, quick update on the car, and then I will get to the meat of the video, which is how to coat your turbo housing or headers or whatever you want, pretty reasonable with something that's going to hold up for a while, and and you can do it for about 50 bucks or under, usually about 25 or under, if you got an old oven that you can use to bake it. There are other ways to do it, which I'll go through as well. But let's do a quick update on the car, and then we'll get to that. Starting to get the car back together. So some changes, obviously a lot of electronic changes, and I don't want to hear the wires in the EFI. It's just because that's the thing I'm doing with the blow through on the Coyote. So smart coils, Haltech. It's going to be a Haltech system VMS, which I think I've covered in previous videos. But also put a Messier pump on it. Redid the whole cooling system. A custom reservoir tank. It's going to have all the sensors will be on that sensor block here, and then coolant pressure and temperature. Map sensor will be back there on the firewall, and I'll have let me see, we'll measure probably gate pressure, back pressure, oil pressure, maybe trans. I'm not sure about that yet. I've got a bunch of sensors, so I can use whatever I want. But we'll definitely do probably dome pressure, back pressure, things like that, and then I could switch them off if I need to. A lot of work in the coolant system to try to get this thing worked right, so I've got it running out of both cylinder heads into one line that's going to go back into the radiator, very similar to what I had last time, just updated a little bit with some better stuff, better quality stuff, AN lines everywhere this time, and obviously deleted the water pump down there, so it's got a real short belt on it, and I will try to get the number off of that if anybody's looking for it, which one I used, and I'll see if I can post that somewhere in the description maybe as to what belt that was for that delete, just to be able to run just the alternator without the water pump or anything else. And inside the car, I've got the Haltech dash mounted already, which is a little adjustable, so I can move it up and down. I can move it and tilt it whichever way I want. I've got to finish wire and everything, but I've got the VMS mounted down there. The boost solenoid's mounted down there. I'm going to put the rest of the electronics right there on a plate on the roll bar next to that, and then I'll mount my main electronics bar back there where I had all my ignition before. I'll mount that back up underneath the firewall. And now, back to this. So, what I did here, and I'll post a picture of my turbo that was on. I'm switching turbos. I'm putting an 88 on it this time. By the way, thanks Bernie for the deal on that. I sold my S475, and my S475 had a turbine housing on it that I coated myself, and all I used was VHT high temp primer, VHT high temp black paint, and it stayed on there, and it looked just like this for 3 years, however many runs and street miles or whatever, and it never changed. And if I could find this spot in the video, then I will post a picture of it in there so you can see what it looked like the day I sold it, because I took a picture of it there. So it never flaked, it never burned off or anything. No cover on it or anything. As a matter of fact, my headers are coated the same way. Anything I could fit in an oven, I coated myself. The directions are pretty easy. I've got some pictures that I'm going to post of how I prepped it and stuff. My last video, I lost it because my phone crashed and I lost everything that was on my phone just about. So I recovered a few pictures, but that was it. But here's what a new turbine housing looks like. And obviously it's better if you start with new, but it doesn't have to be. If you bead blast it, be careful and don't get anything inside the middle of it. You'll be fine. Just don't want to mess up. You don't want a bunch of sand or anything in there that's going to mess up the bearings on the turbo or get inside of there. So tape that off real good if you're going to bead blast or sand blast it. But just clean it up the best you can. This one here was actually, I had a little bit more surface rust on it because it was slightly used, but it was still in very good shape. Now the one on my S475 was brand new, just like this, right out of the box. And basically I used a small wire brush and some acetone, cleaned it up really good, heated it up in an old oven
which I think I got a picture of, and I'll post that picture in here as well. And it's just an old oven that we stuck in the shop so that we could use for powder coating or doing whatever. And this process actually works. I learned this a number of years back because we used to coat pistons with this stuff, SP101 or SP118. I forget which number it was, but VHT. It was a poor man's piston coating is what we did. So here's per VHT. Here's what you're going to do. Heat cycle number 1. Once you get this thing primed and painted, heat cycle number 1, 250 degrees for 30 minutes. Pull it out of the oven, let it cool down for 30 minutes. Heat cycle number 2, 400 degrees for 30 minutes, then pull it out and let it cool down for 30 minutes again. And then the final heat cycle, my oven doesn't go to 650, so I took it to 5 or 550 or whatever the max was. And I put it on there, and I did it for an extra 10 minutes, so I did it for 40 minutes. And then cool and wait 24 hours before you do anything. Just let it sit. Now, this has now been sitting for a week. It's got a couple small flaws where I touched it when I was getting it in and out of the oven, so I was in a hurry. So I got a couple small flaws in it. My other one had 0 flaws. It was actually perfect. So, but it touched the rack of the oven there, so I got that one little divot. But I don't think it's going to make a big difference on there. Otherwise, it should stay looking like this, just like the other one did, for years before it ever flakes off. Mine was on there for at least 3 years, and it looked exactly the same the day I sold it as this one does right now. And I will post some pictures of it. But there you go. I don't remember how much I paid for this stuff here. Advanced Auto, Speed Shops have it. So I used primer SP, looks like 100 gray. You can use the white too. I've used that, it works fine. SP 102 for the flat black. I don't know if they make that in anything other than flat black, but that's what I like. I like that look. So there you go. For maybe 25 bucks, 25 to 50 bucks, depending on what you're coating, it'll stay on. It'll work.